Good afternoon. A staggering blow today for Poland as it mourns the loss of its president and many of its top leaders. Crowds have been gathering to mourn, to lay flowers and to light candles in Warsaw after the death of President Lech Kaczynski, his wife and some of the country's top military and civilian leaders. Their plane crashed as it came in for landing in western Russia several hours ago. Russia says there were at least 97 people on the aircraft. Officials say there were no survivors. The president was leading the delegation that was to mark the 70th anniversary of the massacre of Polish prisoners of war by Soviet forces during World War II. The plane was a Russian-built Tupolev Tu-154, a Tupolev 154. It was trying to land in heavy fog in Smolensk. The Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin is heading to the city, where he'll meet Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Condolences, though, have been pouring in from around the world. In Germany, the Bundeschancellor Angela Merkel said that she's deeply shocked by the plane accident and the death of the Polish president. Across the Atlantic into Washington, where President Obama said, today's loss is devastating to Poland, to the United States and to the world. President Kaczynski was a distinguished statesman who played a key role in the solidarity movement, and he was widely admired in the United States as a leader dedicated to advancing freedom and human dignity. Today, there are heavy hearts across America. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, says he shares the Polish people's grief. In his words, I knew President Kaczynski as a Polish patriot, as a great friend of Israel, and as a leader who was very active on behalf of his people and for advancing peace and prosperity in the world. President Kaczynski led an important process for opening a new page in relations between the Polish and Jewish peoples. The tragedy has drastically altered Poland's political landscape, if for no other reason than so many senior officials, both in government and in military, appear to have perished.
Here is another news report.
The plane came down in fog in these woods on the approach to the airport in Smolensk after apparently making several attempts to land. The Russian authorities say it hit the treetops before breaking up, and they claimed that the pilot disregarded advice to land elsewhere because of the conditions. In Warsaw, the presidential palace immediately became the focal point of a nation in mourning. Throughout the day, people have gathered there to lay flowers and pay tribute to the victims of the tragedy.
I came here to light a candle because the best president we've ever had has died. It's true.
It's a great shock because the elite of our nation went there to remember the dead from 70 years ago. And right now Poland is really in trouble. We're all in shock.
The president was on his way to lead the Polish representation at this event in the Katyn forest, marking the 70th anniversary of the massacre of thousands of Poles by the Russians during World War II. The chairs left empty only emphasized the poignancy of the timing of the disaster. Besides President Lech Kaczynski and his wife Maria Kaczynska, those on board the plane included the Army Chief of Staff, General Franciszek Gagor, and the head of the Polish National Bank, Sławomir Szkipek. The crash has torn a hole in the heart of the Polish political establishment and public life, and it virtually removed a generation of senior military commanders too. Members of the large Polish community in Britain have been expressing their condolences, as have leaders around the world. The Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin said it was a tragedy the like of which Russia had never experienced. Mr. Putin has assumed charge of a commission that will investigate the crash. Mike Wooldridge, BBC News.
World leaders have been paying their tributes to Mr. Kaczynski. The Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said his country shares Poland's grief and mourning. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel said she was deeply shocked. The British Prime Minister Gordon Brown said President Kaczynski would be remembered as a passionate patriot and democrat. The former Polish President Lech Walesa said the crash was an inconceivable tragedy. And the US President said today there are heavy hearts across America. The BBC's Adam Easton is in Warsaw, and I started by asking him what had been the people's reaction today.
Yes, people are stunned here. This is the most, as the Prime Minister said, the most tragic event in post-war Polish history. Thousands of people have turned up here outside the presidential palace to pay their respects to the victims. They've come here. Some of them are looking visibly shocked. Some people are in tears. Many people have brought flowers, also lighting candles, and allaying remarks and comments to remember the dead here. This is really a nation in shock. Just to give you an idea of the scale of this, it's not just the president and his wife, of course. We've got the ombudsman, the head of the central bank, many figures from the main opposition party, and also almost all of the generals of the commanders of the armed forces. This is an event that is unprecedented in Polish history, and it's one that many people are finding very hard to take in.
We have a week of mourning, do we not? But the authorities have moved very quickly to announce that elections, presidential elections, will be held within the next couple of months.
That's right. There's also going to be 2 minutes of silence observed on Sunday. Now, the Constitution, the point you're making about the elections, stipulates that in the meantime the Speaker of the Polish Parliament takes over as the caretaker president, and elections have to be held within 60 days to elect a new president.
That's Adam Easton in Warsaw. I want to take you to Smolensk now, the scene of the crash, because the Russian Prime Minister, Mr. Putin, is due to arrive there, or actually has arrived there, I understand. Wreckage, including the engine, a large chunk of the tail fin, scattered across the forest, and parts of it burned for more than an hour. 2 black box flight recorders were apparently quickly found. The Russian President, Dmitry Medvedev, has appointed Vladimir Putin to head an inquiry, and he's also sent the Emergency Situations Minister to the site. And the crash occurred just a few days after Putin and the Polish Prime Minister attended a joint memorial service for Katyn victims. So that's the scene, and as soon as we see Mr. Putin, if indeed we do, we shall cross to that and see whether he has anything to say.
News of the crash was met with shock in Poland. Prime Minister Donald Tusk described the crash in which the President, Lech Kaczynski, and the First Lady were killed on Saturday as the most tragic event of the country's post-war history. The Prime Minister called an emergency cabinet meeting in the wake of the devastating crash that claimed the lives of many civilian and military leaders. Poland had truly lost people that mattered.
We pray for this country because I'm seeing people that matter, an official, government, they were inside Balu. Something happened on the air.
Good afternoon. A staggering blow today for Poland as it mourns the loss of its president and many of its top leaders.
Besides President Lech Kaczynski and his wife Maria Kaczynska, those on board the plane included the Army Chief of Staff, General Franciszek Gagor, and the head of the Polish National Bank, Sławomir Szkipek. The crash has torn a hole in the heart of the Polish political establishment and public life, and it virtually removed a generation of senior military commanders too.
Prophet T.B. Joshua prophesied that he saw people that mattered, government officials inside the balloon. The crash devastated the upper echelons of Poland's political and military establishments. On board were people that mattered: the President and the First Lady, Army Chief of Staff, National Bank President, Deputy Foreign Minister, Army Chaplain, Head of the National Security Office, Deputy Parliament Speaker, Civil Rights Commissioner, Deputy Minister of National Defence, and at least 2 presidential aides and 3 lawmakers.
I was in the vision and I saw where a balloon is full of people. A lot of people are inside the balloon. It's just lose control on the air. And balloon was just looking for a place to land.
Just as the prophet had said, a lot of people were inside the balloon. 97 people were on board, 88 of whom were part of the Polish state delegation en route to attend the memorial service in Katyn Forest, Russia.